Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive into the world's most pressing stories. On September 7th, 2025, the headlines are screaming one thing loud and clear. Russia just unleashed its largest aerial assault on Ukraine since the war began in 2022. Over 800 drones and decoys rained down on Kyiv overnight, with a direct hit on Ukraine's Cabinet of Ministers building, the first time it's been struck. 2 dead, 11 injured, and a city left reeling. Is this Vladimir Putin flexing his military muscle, or is it a desperate gasp from a regime stretched thin? Buckle up, because we're unpacking this escalation, its implications, and what it means for the world stage. Let's set the scene. It's just past midnight in Kyiv, and the skies are buzzing, not with stars, but with an armada of drones. Ukrainian officials report 805 drones and decoys in this single attack, a number that dwarfs anything we've seen in this conflict. For context, that's like sending a flock of robotic locusts to swarm a city of millions, the target. Not just military outposts, but the heart of Ukraine's government. The Cabinet of Ministers building, a symbol of Ukrainian resilience, now bears the scars of Russian munitions. Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal called it a deliberate escalation, and he's not wrong. This isn't just another day at the front. This is Russia saying, we're still here and we're not playing nice. So what's behind this unprecedented barrage? Let's break it down. First, the military angle. Russia's drone strategy has evolved since the early days of the war. Back in 2022, they were lobbing missiles with reckless abandon, but drones cheaper, harder to intercept, and increasingly sophisticated have become the weapon of choice. These aren't your backyard hobbyist drones. We're talking kamikaze models, some reportedly supplied by North Korea and Iran, packed with explosives and guided by tech that's raising eyebrows in NATO capitals. Ukrainian and Western intelligence have long accused Beijing of being Moscow's economic lifeline, and whispers of North Korean troops and ammo in Russia's arsenal are growing louder. Now let's talk numbers. Russia's losses in this war are staggering. Estimates suggest over 500,000 soldiers dead or wounded. That's a generation decimated, and Putin's not exactly winning hearts and minds by drafting more conscripts. The Kremlin's economy is creaking under sanctions, and yet here they are, launching a drone swarm that probably costs more than a small country's GDP. If you're wondering how they're bankrolling this, look east. China and India are not just buying Russian oil. They're allegedly funneling dual-use tech, think microchips and guidance systems, that keeps Putin's war machine humming. But here's where it gets interesting. This attack comes at a curious time. President Donald Trump has been vocal about brokering peace between Russia and Ukraine. He's promised to sit down with Putin, maybe over a Big Mac and some borscht, to hammer out a deal. Yet Putin's response seems to be less "let us talk" and more "let us blow things up." On X, some are calling this a power play to strengthen Russia's hand before any negotiations, while others see it as a sign of desperation. A dictator lashing out as his military bogs down in Ukraine's east. Let's not kid ourselves. Putin's not exactly the "let's hug it out" type. His top aide recently confirmed North Korean troops will stay in Russia even if the war ends, a move that's got NATO planners reaching for the antacids. And then there's the optics. Just days ago, Putin was rubbing shoulders with China's Xi Jinping and North Korea's Kim Jong-un at a military parade in Beijing, celebrating the 80th anniversary of Japan's We Surrender. Trump wasn't thrilled, posting on social media that she was conspiring against the US with his authoritarian buddies. The parade was less a history lesson and more a middle finger to the West, showcasing a bloc that's cozying up while the world watches nervously. Now let's zoom out to the global ripple effects. This attack isn't just about Kyiv. It's a wake-up call for Europe. The EU's already jittery about Russian aggression, especially with Trump's isolationist rhetoric making waves, Norway's buying British warships, and NATO's boosting defenses, all while wondering if Uncle Sam will still have their back. In the Middle East, Russia's influence is waning. Syria's Assad just fell, partly because Putin's too busy in Ukraine to prop him up, but don't count Russia out. They're still stirring the pot, and this drone attack proves they've got plenty of toys left to play with. Economically, this escalation is a gut punch. Ukraine's already battered economy now faces more infrastructure damage, and global markets are twitching. Energy prices, already volatile from the Russia-Ukraine war, could spike again, hitting consumers from Berlin to Boston. The US dollar might wobble as investors brace for uncertainty, though its dominance as a reserve currency isn't going anywhere soon. And let's not forget the human cost. Millions displaced, thousands dead, and a generation of Ukrainians growing up under the shadow of war. If you're wondering why this matters to you, check your gas bill or grocery receipt, it's all connected. So is this escalation a masterstroke or a miscalculation? Here's the rub. Russia's playing a high-stakes game. Putin's betting that overwhelming force will force Ukraine and the West to the negotiating table on his terms. But the Kremlin's not invincible. Their economy's on life support, their military's bleeding, and their allies, like China, have their own agendas. She's not writing blank checks. He's got his eyes on Taiwan and the South China Sea. Meanwhile, Ukraine's not folding. They've been down this road before, and they've got a knack for turning Russian hardware into scrap metal. Let's add a dash of skepticism here. Putin's grandstanding might impress his inner circle, but it is hard to see how pummeling key U.S. government buildings wins him anything but more sanctions and bad press. And Trump's peace talks. Good luck getting Putin to agree to anything that doesn't leave Ukraine gutted and demilitarized, a non-starter for Kyiv. If this is Putin's idea of leverage, it's like bringing a flamethrower to a chess match. Sure, it's dramatic, but it's not exactly checkmate. What's next? The US and NATO are likely to double down on military aid to Ukraine. Think more anti-drone systems and maybe some shiny new F-16s. But Trump's America First vibe could complicate things. If he pushes for a quick deal, Europe might have to step up and fast. France, already grumpy about its economy, isn't thrilled about footing the bill, and Germany's not exactly volunteering to play sugar daddy either. On X, users are split. Some see Trump as a deal-maker who led the war. Others think he's walking into Putin's trap. Either way, the world's watching. Before we wrap up, let's talk society. This attack isn't just about geopolitics. It's about people. Ukrainians are picking up the pieces again. Families are mourning, communities are rallying, and the resilience is humbling. But resilience only goes so far when your city's under siege. And in Russia, ordinary citizens are paying the price for Putin's gamble sanctions, conscription, and a future that looks bleaker by the day. If there's a silver lining, it's the global outpouring of support for Ukraine, from volunteers to crowdfunding for drones. War's ugly, but humanity's stubborn. So here we are, September 7th, 2025, staring down a world where drones outnumber diplomats, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Russia's latest move is bold, maybe reckless, and it's shaking up everything from energy markets to NATO's playbook. Will it force a peace deal, or just more chaos? That's the question we'll be wrestling with tomorrow, and the day after that. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and maybe keep an eye on the skies. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.